I can clean that up as they put their siding on the house, because
Yeah.
one of the things we'll be looking at the inspection before closing is you want to have an inch separation between the horizontal or the vertical wall and the roof edge.
That's correct.
And that's for water doesn't seep up. So again, we're not going to note it because, you know, if at the other inspection we see it, then we would note it at that point. Here, they're just not through with the, you know, the siding.
Gotcha.
Making sure that the sheathing wrap actually overlaps the bottom. That way water doesn't get behind the sheathing wrap. So if you do it on from top to bottom, the water's just going to run. If it was to get behind there, just run right behind that sheathing. That's some of the stuff that we look for. Your flashing tape around the windows, same thing. I'm going to start from the bottom up, making sure that that flashing tape is going over the bottom one so the water doesn't run behind there. I did see a couple of stuff for example, cut a little too long. We're gonna have it noted because it's something that probably needs to be fixed. There's not a lot of load bearing on this corner. So is it gonna make a difference in the long run? Probably not, but it's something that probably needs to be looked at. So we have that noted as well as overnotched. Let's see. So this one right here is missing its flashing tape. So we want to make sure that this gets done correctly. They'll probably end up pulling this up, or they'll put the bottom one down and then reflash it on the sides.
Okay.
That's water going through.
Yeah.
In,
Flashing water,
yeah.
flash the top.
Yep.
Yeah.
Want to make sure that there's no plumbing pipes at all going through the foundation. Notice there was a drain pipe on the other side of the house. Just want to make sure that that gets covered just so that lawnmowers or anything doesn't damage it. So, making sure that you have your flashings around all your openings, and here on the roof, you notice.
Now, as you're looking, probably the most important thing, other than like obvious damage, would be the way that flashing tape is installed, because that is a primary way of water entering the building envelope. So of all the things on the outside that we've talked about, I think that would be one of the important ones. And then you were going to mention the flashing on the plumbing stack.
Yeah, so the plumbing stack, I noticed that the flashing doesn't appear to be installed. So we want to make sure that that gets properly with a flashing boot. Want to make sure that that fits over that plumbing stack, and then the shingle is running over the flashing.
Yeah.
So we have that done.
Let's go back into that front one. Now,
That's probably something that yet they have not completed just yet, so they'll probably.
when you start doing this over and over and over again, you get a good sense pretty quickly on the quality of the build. And so that's what we're seeing here. We're seeing a decent quality on the build. And if you think about it, you've got a general contractor, you've got the subs coming in.
Is it ready?
If there's bricks, but we don't know that like in our report. We can't assume what's being built, so we just note it.
Because you've got
That's wrong. Yeah. It's gone? Have you ever seen it like this before? It come through the wall and the wire is outside.
Yeah. Yeah. It's not.
Instead of
So-
being just on the wall.
Yeah. You come out here.
And you send that to me right now, man.
Yeah. All of these.
Even the one on the post? Everything is wrong.
Yeah. It's got to be full be tied. All right. Appreciate it.
And anyway, what I was saying is, you know, you could tell pretty quickly when you've got a builder or contractors coming in, they're just throwing things up versus those that are taking their time and doing a good job.
Correct.
And that's, you know, not to say that we get any less strict or we get any less observant, but it's just something that you know when you do this repetitively. And then, Nathan, where is that, those notches on those?
I did show him a couple of them, but there is some on that edge over here that we can look at. Like this one. Well, we went through that one.
Now on the roof, my company typically doesn't do a drone on the roof at this point. And the reason for that, there's a lot of construction and there's a lot of work to be done between now and the closing inspection. However, we do inspect the roof. The only thing I really saw, you have a little bit of a raised shingle up there on that ridge point that can allow air to get up in there and possibly cause a leak. So they'll want to get that corrected now versus later. Do y'all see it?
Yeah, it's lifting right now.
So as the wind comes or a storm comes, it could get water and air up through that opening and get into the building envelope.
Mr. Nation, anything in here?
Oh, no information here.
Any questions on the exterior of the roof?
Strike plate right here. It's about all on it.
AJ?
Pretty good.
Mark it, man.
They had one here, but they did not keep one right there.
All right. Any questions so far of what we've covered in the exterior?
So a lot of it
There's
again
no
is
right or wrong answer, so
No.
if you have
A
questions,
long question or dumb question, let's ask them.
probably just ask. Now.
Yeah.
So all questions are dumb questions?
No, I said no question is a dumb question. You can ask them.
let's go to the room we have. So fire caulking, yes, that's a big one. Anytime you're going up and down a level. Now you notice they've got it here and here. There's a couple of spaces upstairs we noticed that it's missing. If you see around that one pipe here, it's missing around that edge. But then you don't have any here. Well, we're not going to mark that because they're probably going to come through there with something, and that'll be something we'll have to get to at a later date.
The primary thing is for you to between your heated space and the non-heated space. That's outside. This is still technically outside. So all around there, got to seal all penetrations, between the heated space and the non-heated space.
I did note, it's right here in the corner.
There's some hangers there too. Some
I did note the strike plate here as well. It's right here in the corner, but if anybody was to go through that. So I noted that.
So let's stop for a moment and look at something. Now, we're not structural inspectors.
They add out some more.
No, I wouldn't make any suggestions. I just looking at it to see maybe is there a bow? Do I see any split wood? They've got straps on it. That's good.
Correct.
And then like we'll discuss this in that other room, but when we look at these joist hangers, we want to make sure that the nails are all placed in the hangers everywhere they should be.
No. Okay. So this should have been floated this way. Then go up here, because now once the driver guy comes in here, if they nail any of this, the sensor is affected and your garage won't work.
See that wire on the outside of that stud, just to cover that.
Yeah, so you probably need to move it through here.
Yeah.
So you move this, run it through here, go up, boom.
Very good. And that would be the garage opening.
And an ankle bolt is facing you as well. Ankle bolt. So when we're walking the house, we already had like 5 more stores
From that end.
So typically it might be the same, but the most important piece is
The notch.
you have enough store to support the point load coming from
The top.
the top. So they really need to add more because this is 20-foot open here. And you have, as I've said, this is 4-ply and you have another 3-ply across the garage. This cuts the, not the one that cut.
So this is definitely something that, and you can, if you're paying attention and you know a little bit of knowledge, you'll notice that that's been cut. These are engineered I-joists, and they're not supposed to be cut like that. So they'll need to be repaired so that they're not going to be compromised. And even if you don't have a lot of training, you can see that that's been cut like that. So it's not a hard observation. Let's go in this other room. Let's see, we've discussed the straps. We've discussed these studs. The upstairs is much like the downstairs. You go up there without the ladder rails. But we'll show you a couple of things we kind of prepared for in here to give you an idea of what we're looking at. Pillar to post, this is Chuck. All right. Joist hangers. You want to make sure that all the nails are in all the holes of joist hangers. You're looking for anything obvious, so here they've made it easy for us again. They've asked for added support. They've got added support, so we don't need to do anything here. Here's another example of a window that's extra wide that needs straps, so we've got the straps. You've got the fire stop. The anchor bolts are good on the seal plates. They've got strike plates where they need them. So typically the rule, like I mentioned earlier, is halfway in the joist or beyond, or more shallow, you'll need them. So that's why some of them have them and some of them don't. And then in here, we notice there is an opening to the outside. And if you want to catch something like this, because this is going to be an area where pests could get into. The side is going to cover it up. But let's say the siding is short or whatever, that would be an entry point. You want to catch something like that where they can seal that with caulk. There's a couple of little openings in various areas of the home. Well, what other questions do y'all have? We've kind of covered a lot of stuff. Anything specific?
The plumbing and the gas line test. Did you guys check that?
We'll do that at the closing. We don't test the gas line. We just will operate the fireplaces to make sure that they work if they're gas operated. Water heater, the furnaces if they're operated by gas. And then the electricity, of course, we test all the outlets, switches, lights, appliances, that kind of thing. We go through all of those.
Got it. All right, sounds good. Any questions?
So, I know you don't do, the code inspector. So typically when you're asked to come out for MEP golf pre-drywall, this is all that's expected from the inspector to cover?
Yeah, so there is a standard. I can get you a copy. I've got it on my computer just in case. And the standard is just like, we're a part of ASHI. ASHI is the American Society of Home Inspectors. It gives us the parameters of what we're looking for and then what we're not looking for. In other words, depending on the steepness of the roof, we're not roofers, we don't go on the roof if we can't. I can give you a list of those parameters. So a lot of that we're looking for, but most of it is done. We don't have anything to comment because it's been done correctly. Okay. So our job is to come in and just point out the items that we think need to be addressed is what we do. And so typically a pre-drywall takes about should take about half the time or less than a regular inspection just because there's not so much to look at.
Okay. So Sam had asked you about the gas and you said that's at the end point when we do a closing final inspection. So how about the electrical? Do you look at the boxes to see if they're
No, we're typically, so basically you've got wires coming into the box. Now if there were wires just hanging, they're not supposed to leave them like that. The building is not supposed to be powered. So if we saw wires coming outside of a box, we may or may not note that. Probably would just for safety, but not for like wiring. Does it have the 3 wires in the ground or the 2 wires in the ground and that kind of thing. For electrical, we're basically making sure that where the lines will run through the walls, that they're protected.
Okay.
So that when they come in and they put the drywall, there's no problem with damaging those wires. And then once we come in for the final inspection, like I was mentioning earlier, that's when we test the polarity of the receptacles. We're making sure that they work. We're making sure that lights work, fans work, everything's working at that time. And the gas, so the gas system, we don't do pressure tests. That's outside of scope for us. But we do make sure that the appliances that run on gas are tested and are working properly.
What about a water test?
We take a water pressure test to make sure you've got adequate water pressure, and then we'll note the location of the pressure regulator.
What's the standard PSI for the water?
40 to 80.
40 to 80?
40 to 80.
Okay, so there's that range.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so if you're in between 40 and 80, if you get above 80, you could damage the O-rings inside the faucets and cause damage. If you're below 40, then you won't get pressure to the entire house. So we run a little gauge on the water bib, on a hose bib. If it reads between 40 and 80, we document that. If it's outside of that, we document it as well and say, hey, it needs to be within 40 to 80.
So Chuck, I got a question, because on some resales, right, inspector comes in and they'll say, well, especially for trusses, do you look at those during, is that at the end or?
Yeah, so when we're doing well, just like we did today, we're mainly looking for damage.
Okay.
You know, we're not there to determine whether the truss is adequate to support the building or any of the construction methods like that are used. We are looking for, if it's an engineered truss, that the plates are fully nailed in. We're looking to make sure that the arms and legs are not broken or cracked. We're looking to make sure that they're seated properly, and then the seating below them is adequate, like we talked about with these studs over here not connecting to the roof.
Okay.
So those are the things we're looking at. Really in both situations, whether it's this, because we're looking at the same thing. Now, I will say that this home, I think, is going to be spray foam insulated, which means they're going to spray insulation on the top of the walls, and then that would prohibit a lot of what we could see. So that would be a benefit of having a pre-drywall inspection, so we could catch some of that before the spray foam is installed, because it'll expand to about 4 to 6 inches, whatever it is, and then we couldn't see anything up under there.
Okay. Another question, I mean, I should have asked this while we're outside, but I got distracted. So some of this report we get, people talking about inspectors saying the slope.
Oh, yeah. The ground slope?
Ground slope. And it seems like especially most resale, it's like almost given. So what is it that they look at during that? Because we're trying to catch all of these before we get, grading and final grading done, and then we'll have to come back and then redo stuff. So what are you looking for?
Okay.
In terms of that?
So when we look at protecting the building envelope, which is the inside of the building, when we see water stains or we see problems with water intrusion, really the first line of defense is obviously the roof, the shingles. And the shingles have the rock layer on the outside. That protects the tar paper underneath from the UV exposure of the sun. Second and third is the gutter system, if it has one, and then the slope of the ground. And the reason that's important is if you have a slope coming to the building like this, then the water would collect at the foundation. It could cause erosion. If it's on a crawl space, it could cause water intrusion. And then when we're looking at the gutters, we want to make sure the gutters are sloped correctly so that they're leading water to the downspouts. And then when the downspout is connected, we want the water away from the building. Okay. Now the slope, we just want to make sure that the slope is away from the building. And it's a simple fix. If it's not, then we can add dirt or another substrate to make water shed from the building versus to the building.
We can look at like the natural landscape to see if it's going, but a lot of grading and stuff still needs to be done. But if there's a heel going right into the house, we probably document it. But with all the dirt collecting from the bobcats and everything else, it's kind of hard to, they'll end up fixing that at the end.
And the county will make sure that the grade around the house sheds water away from the house.
That's correct.
So if we look out here, all of this water is probably going to shed to this neighborhood, or to this house, and shed down to, I guess, that creek line there. So he may have some kind of issue where they'll want to put a drain or something, just depending, because all this water is going to shed down to him. But you'll notice this house, they've built this land, if you'll look, they've built this up so that the house is not being, is not in a, basically a puddle. It's lifted up out of the water, essentially. Do y'all see that line? That's what that's there for. But then again, so let's go on the outside and look, since you brought it up, because I think I saw something over there. But we got to go all the way around. All right, so let's look right here. So I think the slope is a little bit off here. We're not going to document that at this time because this house is still under construction. But what could happen is water could collect in this area, especially if we had a gutter problem up here, and it could pool right here in this corner. And what that would do is that would erode the foundation underneath, and that would be a problem.
So guys, at all times, I think the very first thing during grading is to make sure you have all your water swelling away from the home, at least 10 feet according to the code. So same thing when you're walking your home for rough inspection, you want to make sure that the slope of the home, there's no water coming towards the foundation. So if you look at there right now, excessive rain is going to make that water come down to this foundation wall. So please, at all times, let's just make sure the slopes and the grade in the home is good. Yes, sir. All right, well, thank you for your time, Chucks.
Any other questions?
We'll just walk through the home, guys. And basically, I'll show you what the code is. It's like code inspection, inspector, but for our own part, we are code driven because, you know, at the end of the day, this is what we do, and we just need to make sure it's done properly and it's done according to the code. So we'll start from the exterior,
call you to get the
walk through the
payment
home, we'll just point out things, then we'll go from there. And if at any point you have any questions, so we can let them.
Now, if you'll get me the numbers of everyone, I'll give you an e-card. I don't have enough cards with me in my son's truck, but I'll give you an e-card, and we're certainly at any time, if you have a question, just give me a call. That's what we're here for.
All right, sounds good.
So.